I'm joined by Tara Kangarlou, global affairs journalist and author of The Heartbeat of Iran and professor at Georgetown University. Tara, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Civilians are suffering in this escalating conflict, and there is increasing talk about a regime change in Iran. But what is the sentiment on the ground?
Thank you so much for having me. It's certainly a volatile time and a very tragic moment for Iranians. Iran is a country of 90 million people, majority of extremely educated, sophisticated. They're well aware of what goes on in the world, and also they're very well aware of what they want. The sentiment right now in Iran, people are uniting, they're rallying around the flag, but they're not rallying around the regime. And that is a huge distinction that I think is worth noting. Iranians feel that once again, we are caught between a war that is not ours and a war that we don't want. They're caught between the lunacy of a theocracy, of a dictatorship, and a government, the Bibi Netanyahu's regime, who for the longest time wanted to attack Iran. You know, this is nothing new. If we go back 15 years, almost 20 years, he's been saying the same thing. So Iranian people are caught in between these two regimes, and they want none of this. Again, to put things in context, we're talking about millions of innocent civilians. And again, death toll is rising. Close to 600 people have been killed so far in Iran. And last thing I would say, the death toll in Israel. Any civilian life is valued and should not be taken by these powers to be.
Tara, what hope is left for people living inside of Iran, even if a regime change does happen and the supreme leader is defeated? What's left for them?
I think that's a big question. First of all, the killing or eliminating of supreme leader or the collapse of the regime doesn't immediately mean good news for Iran and the Iranian people, who, again, have made it very clear that we don't want this regime. Whilst, by the way, the world just watched. Every time thousands came on the street risking their lives, the world did not pay attention. So that's an important point there. But when regimes collapse, we have seen around the region, our own region, what has happened. Iraq, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan. So a regime collapse of such scale for a government and a regime that is so powerful is no good news. There are separatist powers around Iran, within the country. Talking to actually a source in Iran, they're quite worried, even though, sure, they want the bombs to stop, but they also don't want the government, but they don't want this war. The last thing also I would say is that some of Iran's brightest and most capable people who can forge their future are in prisons. They are the ones who can actually bring about change. And for the longest time, Iranian people wanted referendum. So quite frankly, the most peaceful way, in my humble opinion, is if the regime collapse, there would be a UN-supervised referendum, a transitional government to avoid any form of bloodshed and chaos as seen elsewhere in the region.
President Trump still appears keen to bring Iran to the table to negotiate a deal. But however, he's also considering the possibility of direct US involvement in Israel's campaign. From your perspective, Tara, does Iran still have some level of trust in American and Western diplomacies to see this happen?
I don't think the Iranian regime, nor, by the way, the Iranian people, have any trust in quite frankly, any foreign country, let alone Western powers to be. And this is based on history. If you look at Iran's history of just the last 100 years, you can see why. With regards to diplomacy, Iranian regime is at its weakest. They're desperate. So if they want to stay in power in some shape or form, they better come to the negotiating table. But what the supreme leader of Iran said yesterday attests to the contrary. he is pretty much doing what they did during the Iran-Iraq war. There were many opportunities for Iran to come to the negotiating table, stop the killing of hundreds of innocent civilians again, but they didn't. They dragged it out of the hubris and arrogance that the Islamic regime is based on. But they're desperate if they want to stay in power. What Donald Trump does is we have yet to see. The talks are still scheduled to happen in Geneva tomorrow, and reports are coming. CBS is reporting that potentially over the weekend there are going to be talks between the Iranian foreign, not directly, but indirect talks of some sort between the American and the Iranian, and Steve Witkoff involved. So these talks are still going on, all the while Israel has threatened to eliminate the supreme leader, as the defense minister did earlier today.
Tara Kangarlou, global affairs journalist, author of The Heartbeat of Iran and professor at Georgetown University. Thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.